I'm going to introduce Jay Ash. Jay serves as the Housing and Economic Development Secretary of Housing and Economic Development for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Secretary Ash is responsible for directing and executing Governor Charlie Baker's agenda on housing and community development, job creation, business development, consumer affairs, and business regulation. Since joining the Baker-Polito administration, Secretary Ash has prioritized efforts to grow jobs, help communities realize their economic development priorities, connect citizens to new economic opportunities, and build prosperity across Massachusetts. So let's give a warm Franklin County welcome to Secretary Ash.
Welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm sorry I'm running a little bit late. Started my morning in Gardner. Well, I started my morning in Danvers, Frank. Made it over to Gardner, back to Leominster, back out here now. So I'm driving around today. After this, I'm running out to Palmer and over to Springfield afterwards. So full day in Central and Western Mass. An exciting day for me. I'm glad to be here with all of you. Pinball. Wow. I know where I'm going to be spending an awful lot of time now. As long as the pinball machines are kind of level. You see the new pinball machines? They angle them so much. Captain Scott, how are you? Captain Scott Peabody, who runs the Salvation Army here in Greenfield, old friend of mine from Chelsea. I will tell you, anyone that wants to put a softball team together, Captain Scott's your guy. You also have to notify the local hospital that the softball is happening, because I've seen him hit the ball so hard that he's taken off some heads. So it's great to see you. It's great to be here with all of you. Thanks for the opportunity to come and speak. Always happy to be at Greenfield Community College. We are very excited about what's happening in our community college system. The governor continues to talk about community colleges as being a central part to what we're trying to do for our workforce. And so the work that happens here at community college and other vocational schools and comprehensive high schools are an important part of what we're trying to do, an important part of our overall agenda to bring prosperity to the Commonwealth. Many of you have participated in efforts that we've had over the course of the last 2.5 years to help us identify what our plan would be, to help us put together legislation, and now the good news, to help us spend the money that we got as a result of that legislation. So it's a really good time to be the Secretary of Housing and Economic Development in the state, working for somebody who I really admire in Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Polito, and working very well with the legislature. So I'm going to start a little bit with that. How many of us are happy with what we see in Washington these days? Nobody. There was somebody that raised their hand this morning. So I said, President Trump, put your hand back on. No, I'm only kidding. So I asked that question not to make light of what's happening in Washington, because we all have a vested interest in what's happening in Washington, but to highlight what isn't happening similarly in Boston. You have a Republican governor and the Democratic legislature working very closely together, and the results of bipartisan efforts are creating good public policy, including an economic development bill with $1 billion to spend around the state to promote economic development. So if you think about everything that we see, all the fighting that goes on in Washington amongst the leaders in the parties, think about this. In Massachusetts, Democratic legislators have given the governor $1 billion to go out and go around the state and make presentations. I get to do a lot of those, so I'm always carrying big checks with me for somewhere. And the governor once said to me, he said, Jay, I hear all kinds of good things about you wherever I go. And I said, Governor, give me another $100 million in grant money, and you'll hear even better things about me. So the bipartisan spirit that we have here in Massachusetts has us now able to fully fund an economic development strategy, which is meant to help communities revitalize, to help people prosper, and to help businesses grow. And we're excited about all three and how they work independent of each other and together to really make a healthy Commonwealth. So, we've spent a lot of time out here talking with people. I'm getting to recognize faces. I don't have to send Chelsea people out here to become my eyes and ears, but I'm actually recognizing faces. 2 weeks ago, as I was driving back from Pittsfield, I stopped in Orange to pick up something at Annie's Ice Cream. in the parking lot was the owner of Trailhead in downtown Orange, Paul, and I said, boy, I guess I've been in Orange enough. I'm actually recognizing people in parking lots. So we've been out here an awful lot and talking to all of you about what your priorities are for Franklin County, for Western Mass, for Berkshires, and we're really excited to be able to be in a position where we can help deliver on some things. So a big part of what we do is we provide incentives for economic development to take place. And so those incentives are the traditional types where we'll come in and we'll provide infrastructure in return for private investment. And then there's some creative things that are going on. So in that economic development bill that was adopted last year, some of the creative things include supporting the creative economy. So as we were going around from city to city, town to town, what we were seeing is that there was a spirit of innovation, a spirit of entrepreneurship that existed in every community, and we weren't fully funding that effort. And so we've created this program called the Collaborative Workspace Program, and that Collaborative Workspace Program is meant to help to nurture economic development through innovation and entrepreneurship in every city and every town in the Commonwealth. Here in Greenfield, we were able to fund $100,000 for Cook Launch and Test. There you go, in the back, right? And working collaboratively with North Adams, with who Greylock Works. And for those of you who haven't seen Greylock Works, oh my God, right? It's just unbelievable. It's pretty funny because it's almost like a bait and switch in the reverse. You know, I drove up to Greylock Works and I'm looking at this building and I'm saying, oh my God, this is awful, God awful. And then I went inside and my jaw hit the floor. What's happened there? And the idea of creating this space where community can come together and have farmers markets and have indoor fairs, to have weddings, to have hotel space and residential space, all in this one place that once was a vibrant place of North Adams and the entire region, and now will again be, is really something. And so we've provided MassWorks money, that traditional program, to support that, but also now $100,000 to help the community collaborative workspace be able to take advantage of the opportunity that exists around. So, so that opportunity is great, and we're very excited about helping community innovation. It all came about because when the governor first appointed me, he said, Jay, you need to put together a plan for economic development for the state, but the two of us need to listen more than sit down and talk to each other. And so we went around and listened. Many of you contributed to that. And one of the things that I noticed in my trips around that has left a very important mark on my ideas about economic development, I noticed what was happening in Orange. So going back to Orange again, the Orange Innovation Center really is the catalyst for this program to be developed. Seeing in an old industrial building in Orange, now 42 entrepreneurs, more than 150 people employed there in a building that was falling down, literally falling down, is a great example of what we can do in communities. So that's one aspect of what I'm proud of. Another new thing that's happened is that I've seen opportunities to create new industrial parks and business parks around the state, and those are typically located near highway on-ramps or off-ramps, have good utilities, and can be permitted quickly on the local level. There's a great opportunity out here for you all to come together and identify those sites with us. And I say you all to identify with us because the impetus for that program actually took place before the governor was sworn in and before I was Secretary of Housing and Economic Development. After the governor's election, we started to work together, and before we were sworn in, we had this opportunity to bring a major manufacturer to somewhere in Massachusetts. This was a life sciences company that wanted to manufacture pharmaceuticals, and they were looking for a 50-acre site. Now, I'm from Chelsea, all the way in the eastern part of the state. Chelsea's 1.8 square miles. We've already plowed over everything that we ever had that was green, and there was nowhere to put this 50-acre site in a place like Chelsea. So I figured that the further west you go, there has to be places for this to happen. And what I learned in that exercise, even before I became secretary, is that there weren't a lot of shovel-ready, permitted, large sites that could handle such a development. So our efforts around the site readiness program that we're about to announce awardees next month, is to create those opportunities to bring large manufacturers, large research and development, distribution centers or others to areas, especially out here, that can take advantage of all the resources, all the attributes that make you very special. So excited about programs like that. And that's a combination of helping business grow and helping communities to revitalize. On the people side, as I've said, we're spending a lot of time on working with community colleges and working with vocational schools. And in each of the cases that I've just talked about, we've either established new programs or increased the amount of money that we're dedicating to these new programs. On the job front, working with community colleges and vocational schools, we're spending more and more money helping to better equip community colleges and vocational schools to be able to train students, but also to train adult learners after school is closed, to be able to take advantage of the great opportunities that exist around the Commonwealth. So we're very excited about where we are. To talk about some things specific to here and specific that you may be interested in, the governor is personally involved in the last mile in bringing broadband to every community in the entire Commonwealth. And so there are 44 communities, as you know, the broadband last mile communities. And the governor's personal involvement has led us to a really interesting transformation. So I'll talk about this because we're at a community college and you sometimes think about these things. Sometimes I'm a student of policy, and I watch the transformation that takes place in a bureaucratic organization. So we came in 2.5 years ago with a series of policies, and those policies were things that we were carrying on and implementing. As a political scientist, I started to analyze what was happening in those policies and found that those policies weren't meeting the end objective. In the case of broadband here, we, the state, were trying to tell all of you, all the communities around here, what was good for you, when you, in fact, on the local level, know better than us and will always know better than us as to how to do things. So over the last 2 years, and especially over the last year, and accelerated over the last 6 months, what the governor has said, along with me, is that we have to get the bureaucracy out of the way and instead respect the process that each community has taken out here to bring broadband to their communities. So in some cases, we're happy to work with communities to partner with carriers, Comcast and Charter predominantly, to support their efforts to bring broadband to communities. But in some cases, we hear from communities that we want to run the system ourselves, we want to own the system ourselves, and state, you should help us doing that. And we've said yes now. So we've created this a new structure within our efforts where the state is no longer going to be saying to towns that, no, you can't create your own system. In fact, what we're going to say is, okay, we have an allotment set aside for you to develop out your broadband, and we want to work with you to make sure that you are successful. So this the restructuring, the retooling of the program is having great success, and this month we made 6 awards out here of more than $4 million to help advance the broadband efforts out here. The governor was out here last week walking around in a downtown that had just been lit up, and had the opportunity to talk to business owners about how the ability now to have reliable, high-speed connections was a game changer for them. So we'll continue to be supportive of that. We are looking at ways of making greater investment in the ideas that others have around the state. Here in Greenfield, we've made a major investment in your downtown. Through the, I guess I'll call it advocacy, I could call it pestering of Senate President Stan Rosenberg and the good work of Mayor Martin, we have again taken what was a stalled project, in this case support for the building of a parking garage in Greenfield, and have put up the money to help realize that vision. So, old days. I've been in government just about all my life, and one of the things that frustrates me, in the old days, somebody said, we're going to build a new courthouse in downtown Greenfield, and everybody said, that's great, and nobody said, where are people going to park? And so the courthouse gets built, or it's on the process of getting built, and somebody shows up in my office and says, hey, we got no place to park. And I say, well, geez, didn't somebody think about that 5 years ago when you were talking about it? And the answer, you're shaking your head, no, that didn't happen. As frustrated as we were that it didn't happen before and somebody didn't put money aside for it, we made the second largest grant award during our last MassWorks round to Greenfield to build a parking garage to support not only courthouse, but to support everything else that's happening in the downtown. My friend Steven just walked in and is making a major investment himself in downtown Greenfield. John was kind enough to take me around a couple weeks ago, and we made a nominal grant to create a new public pedestrian space in the downtown. But as we walked around the downtown, I not only got to see where the parking garage was going to be and how much it was going to connect to the rest of the downtown, but I really got a sense from people who are making private investment or spending a lot of their time on the public side to realize what could happen in downtown Greenfield. So I'm really excited about what the possibilities are there, and we'll continue to support projects like that. So all around the county, all around this region, we've been making major investment. I am not a skier. So I have to preface this by saying I'm not a skier, but I've fallen in love with Berkshire East and have spent an incredible amount of time with the brothers Schaefer's, Jim and John, who are now operating their father's ski lodge. And we're making a major investment with them to help them create opportunity. You see, what I look for is I look for people who are either smart enough or crazy enough to make an investment, and I want to add value to what they do. A lot of times people come out and they say to me, you know, you need to create something, and I say, I need a partner. And when I find a good partner, that's a partner that I really want to work with. So Steve is creating a great space in downtown Greenfield and investing his own money, and it's going to be a place that every community could be proud of. And as a result, I want to make sure that he's successful, and in making sure that he's successful, I make sure that the community is able to grow and that the quality of life that is so special out here gets enhanced. So there's a lot of projects that I could talk about, but what you should know is that when it comes to downtown redevelopment, when it comes to tourism, when it comes to manufacturing, and certainly when it comes to eds and meds, we are making inroads and looking for great projects and providing support for great projects. We're excited about what you have been able to do out here, and we're excited about it in that the vision that you all have makes a lot of sense, but it's the way in which you've accomplished the vision that gets us even more excited. I sense out here that people work a little bit more closely together, that the relationships are stronger, and that the commitment that you've made to each other is a real bond. And as a result, we have an obligation as a state to support that type of work. And so the work that you've done, Bob, here, and the leadership that you've exhibited throughout the region is why we want to be here. And the work that many of you have done, I've seen many familiar faces and people that I've had an opportunity to sit in the room and talk with. It's why we want to be as supportive as we can for you. So in closing, what I'd like to tell you is that that bipartisan spirit that I've been talking about is still going on strong. We've been in office now for 2.5 years. I used to work at the State House. I was a staff director for a Democratic leader in the State House, and when I came back, all my friends were laughing and said, you know, the honeymoon will last a week or two, and then it was, the honeymoon will last for a month or two, and now they've been saying, well, the honeymoon may last for a year or two. Well, we're 2.5 years into it, and the honeymoon is still there. We're still working closely together. So as you are thinking about what the possibilities are, and as we are putting together our plans and then enacting our plans, I live my life by slogans, and one of my slogans is you plan the work and then you work the plan. Well, we already planned the work, and now we're working that plan. There's reason to believe that what you have envisioned and what we hope to be able to deliver can be realized because we're all working together here in Massachusetts. Yeah, we share some differences. I'm a Democrat in a Republican administration. We share some differences, but what I've learned is that those differences are really minor. You know, I told a young student in Leominster earlier today who was interested in studying political science that, you know, I find that the differences are really on the margins. There's really a 5% difference in large part. We agree on 95% of everything, but we seem to fight on that 5%. Well, here in Massachusetts, we've been able to figure out that 95% is pretty good, and we're able to build off of that. The last thing I want to say is I appreciate all of you contributing to community and how important that is. So you're fortunate to have great leadership here. You've got a great mayor, Senate president, legislators who represent the district well, great community college people and heads of regional planning agencies and councils of governments and CDCs. That's all great, but everybody pulling together is what makes a difference. And the sense that we have out here is that everybody is pulling together, and it makes us want to do even more for all of you. So thank you all for the work you're doing. Thank you for supporting Chamber of Commerce. Chamber, thank you for having me here. And I look forward to continuing to work with all of you to make your visions a reality. Thanks, everyone.
So the secretary has said that he will take questions.
Only easy ones, though. That's it.
So is there anybody that has a particular question? He answered all your questions.
Awesome.
Great.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Oh, Don. It's always the last one.
I don't know if this is necessarily your area, but there's certainly been some movement and some discussion about sort of enhancing public transit out here. I know obviously there's been additional investments in the train depots, and so we have a couple trains a day going up and down.
Sure.
And also trying to figure out expansion of Boston.
thanks.
And I don't know if you have an update or if that's not
Sure.
your purview at all, or
Sure, it's not my purview, but with a mic, I always have an answer. So, how many people here care about the MBTA? Oh, fair amount. You surprised me. Because all of you should care about the MBTA. And the reason why you should all care about the MBTA is every dollar we spend on the MBTA to fix it is a dollar that we can't spend elsewhere. The strategy that the legislature and the governor have adopted, again, a democratically controlled legislature, giving a Republican governor control over, more management control over the MBTA, is allowing us to fix things that have been broken literally and figuratively for decades. As a result, as we continue to see advancements in what's happening with the MBTA, we can envision a time where we're not spending as much money on doing all the emergency work in the MBTA, and instead that money can be diverted to lots of other things. So that's one good thing. When we have that money, then that means that we can focus on more infrastructure than we already are. We are still focused on infrastructure, but it'll give us even more money to focus on infrastructure around the rest of the state. So over the next 5 years, the state will spend an amazing amount of money, $16 billion. We'll spend $16 billion on infrastructure and transportation improvements around the Commonwealth. The funny thing about that, it's not funny, I guess, if you're a student of good management, was that there was never a 5-year plan on how to do that. So I was a municipal manager for 14 years. I had a 5-year plan for everything. A 5-year plan for capital improvements. I had a 5-year plan for my financial forecast. I even had a 5-year plan for my kids, but 2 out of the 3 worked out well. By the way, I don't have 3 kids, and I wasn't referencing that. So, but there wasn't a 5-year capital plan for the Commonwealth and how we were going to spend money. So what we've done is we've taken a look at what the problems were and where all the money was going, and to nobody's surprise, it was going to emergency stuff and things that weren't planned for, and it costs you a lot more money, and you don't have the time to coordinate it and get the most bang out of the buck. So in fixing all that, we also have been able to implement a 5-year plan that allows us to say we're going to spend $16 billion on transportation and infrastructure improvements. And we're able to make sure the governor continues to talk to me about this. The governor continues to talk to me about this. He talks about regional equity. Now, I'm glad he's talking to me about it because I believe it. I believe in regional equity, and that's why I spend as much time out here as I do everywhere else. The governor talks about regional equity when it comes to transportation dollars and infrastructure dollars. Now, that's all the hopeful side. Now, I'm also a realist, and the realist is every single city, every single town, every single region, every single planner, every single business person, every single official has their idea as to what transportation improvements mean to them. We can't fund every one of them. So we're going to do our best job to make sure that we think through what the possibilities are and try to maximize what the potential of every dollar that is spent in. So there's a long answer, should have been much shorter. Know that Secretary Pollack, who's the Secretary of Transportation, and I work very closely together, and we continue to talk about making sure that we are spending as much time thinking about the future of transportation in places where the MBTA doesn't serve as we do for those that do serve. Any other questions or comments? Awesome. Well, thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. Ooh.